And we're
How you doing,
live.
Claire?
I'm doing
Yep.
okay. How are you?
Busy doing cool stuff, little things, making my house look nicer with flowers, the Jordanian style. I like how they kind of have a desert space and they really make the most of it, and they make their houses like little paradises. So, um, and their
Can we
houses are so
see?
cheap. Yeah. Sorry.
Can we see what you've done to your house? This is interior decoration, is it?
No, actually, I just bought plants outside for the front garden. Um, Maybe I should have like a changing background because it's pretty dull, right? What's outside? I really wanted outdoor, kind of like put my whole studio outdoors, but practically it doesn't work because dust gets in. There's glare on the screen and stuff like that. So maybe that's what I'll do. I'll put lots of fake backgrounds so you can kind of get glimpses of Jordan and how authentic it is, and how, yeah, there's so many nice things about it. It's very subtle, but it's beautiful. So we've got like a red out, like it's kind of like my house kind of from the outside looks like a weird sort of almost red mud house, but indoors is really nice. It's really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean, yes, yes. I hope you'll show us pictures because you're always, telling us how wonderful Jordan is. So you've decided after your visit to Indonesia and the Philippines that you're staying put.
Yeah, I really, as one Jordanian friend put it to me, like if you get to know Jordan, it's hard to leave it, and I think he's right. Yeah.
Right. Did it occur to you to visit Malaysia?
I almost okay. Basically, I almost got into Malaysia. This is how it was. Like I had a what do they call it? Stopover Americans, whatever you call it, you know. And the great thing about Malaysia is you can, with a British passport, you just walk in, no visa. It was really cool. And so I got through, and I misheard the guy at the passport check thing that, oh, I thought he said 15 minutes to get from the airport to Kuala Lumpur, and it wasn't. It's 50 minutes, and I basically had no time. And I thought it looked high tech, and then on the way back from Saudi Arabia, which was my other stopover. Actually, Malaysia was on my way back from Philippines to Indonesia, and I was kind of disappointed because it looked so high tech at the airport, and the Malaysian Airlines was amazing, and I thought maybe that reflects what they're like. But then on the way back, a Jordanian said Malaysian food is terrible and they're boring
Wow.
people, and
I
so it's like,
profoundly
oh, maybe.
disagree. Anyway, you were persuaded, but
Maybe I okay. Tell me about this, right? Okay,
no. I
I
mean,
was.
okay. I'm just going to say, you're absolutely wrong if you're going to say Malaysian food is terrible. Um, but
Is it high
I,
quality food? Good standard? I
but
mean,
you didn't
Malaysian
like
airline food was
Indonesian
good.
food, but I liked Indonesian food. So maybe we have
Okay.
different tastes in food. Um, and
Yeah.
and then you said you went to the Philippines, but you didn't see anything. You didn't see any of the tourist sites at all. You
Yeah,
didn't
but
go
I'm
to
not a big
Intram.
fan of tourist sites. Like in Jordan, I don't care for Petra, which is like one of the wonders in the world. I love the small things. I like going to the local shop, meeting the people,
I
and
know,
getting
but
the culture.
you haven't visited Petra at all this time.
No, I've been to Petra and I've been like twice or something, but I don't care about it. Nor does like my Jordanian friends. Like that's not why we love Jordan. Like it's the little things. It's the actual day to day that's amazing.
Yeah, I know,
You
but,
know.
I mean, I would have thought, if you go somewhere and
No,
it
I've
doesn't
been
matter
Petra
whether
twice.
you're going to be impressed with, the Eiffel Tower or whatever. But
Uh,
I guess you think.
Have you seen the Eiffel Tower? It looks
Yeah,
horrible. It
I've
looks
been
like a
up it. I
rusted.
mean, I guess everybody, well, I'm just the sort of person, like, if I go to, okay, if I go
I've
to
been
India,
to the Eiffel Tower twice, but yeah.
yeah, but I mean, you didn't go to Intramuros when you were in Manila. I couldn't remember the
No,
name of the place. I mean,
no.
you just so you didn't go anywhere at all.
Maybe you got no. I mean, I went across bits of Melina from one side to another. Um,
And all you
yeah,
saw was sort of shanty towns or whatever.
yeah. I wasn't impressed. I mean, there was this
But you didn't
place.
look at the best bit. It's
No,
sort of
okay,
like
there was.
knowing a person and just say, "Oh, I know you." All the your dirty, filthy habits and your annoying little traits, and it's like, and then just forget about the nice things. I'm not going to look at that. I'm just going to say it's shit. But I didn't go to any of the places a tourist might see. You know, I mean, Intramuros is pretty historic. There's Paksanga, okay, Paksanga, not the waterfall, the Malanchanang Palace. I mean, I couldn't remember all the things when I spoke to you last time, but
Yeah, like I would
um,
say, like when I went to, let's say, Morocco, my hotel was next to the palace, and the palace is crap. I liked away from like the tourist stuff. I think that's the best stuff.
right, but
Is
then you said you didn't like the people, couldn't speak English. You didn't like the way they were being so Chinese and polite when they handed you
oh yeah,
things,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Each
yeah,
to their own.
okay, yeah,
I think
yeah.
it is dull. Think we like. I think like if
You
you had
just
a
like
really
things to be
polite.
shoved in your face
I like okay.
or
So
thrown at you.
if you had, I mean, obviously we can have different opinions, but right, if you had a comedian and he was all proper and boring, it would be boring. And I think life is like that. You want it to be funny and direct and human, and you don't want to be talking to a robot, you know. And maybe it's not my thing. It's too polite, but I think there's something good about every culture, and like maybe the exact nature of at least the Japanese. I haven't been to Japan, um,
You'll
but
probably hate
they're
it. And not
I
go to any
yeah.
of the tourist sites and stay in your hotel and say it's shit. Okay, we can,
Oh,
talk about something else
that's
because
so
that.
reductive. That's not even what I said. Did I?
Well,
I
I
went
don't know.
out
I mean,
and
that's the impression I've given you. 3 chances to talk about your holidays, but don't like the people,
everybody
don't
else will
speak
probably
English. They're
figure out.
polite, but it's boring. And I'm glad I'm back in Jordan in my mud hut and my
I think you'd be good YouTuber maybe because you like to just make everything aggressive and whatever, not understand. Okay,
Well,
Karen.
yeah, and I was watching you with what's his name, Nathaniel, and and a chat. It was like, come on, you already agree that usury should be banned, but so are we going to talk about how it could be banned if not with Sharia? No, no, no. So I guess
We gave
it's
solutions.
not
I
about
said how.
having a point, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I made a point about how to solve it, but yeah, I
But I
didn't have to
mean,
use the
okay,
word
I guess you
Sharia.
can't because you're Muslim, and if you say you want Sharia, you'll end up like Anjan Chowdhury. I guess that's why none
No,
of you will support secular Quranism. You all have
Nathaniel's
your
has already
excuses.
in our emails. Nathaniel's already said he's has some interest in Islam, so it's a long-term relationship. It's something I want to explore with him about what his opinions on Islam are and stuff like that over many sessions, hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, I said to him in his Discord, like, well, how are you going to do it with Catholicism? The Catholicism is helpless. It submits to the liberal order. You saw the Pope and King Charles praying together when, in the olden times, they would be sending armies to kill each other. So obviously, this is something, it's like, surely you
I
should
think
know
I think
what
he
your
I
ancestors
think he
killed each other over.
Yeah. No, I think you made a good point. And see, like with different people, I take them to, what they're capable of dealing with. Like I think when I went too aggressive with EMJ, he kind of didn't want to carry on talking, but he likes this kind of
Who is
format where
this?
E.
Ian who?
Michael Jones, Dr. E. Michael
Oh yeah,
Jones.
yeah. I mean, but he still
He,
agree. Is he
if
saying
if I told him
have
like
you?
Christianity doesn't work, he would not carry on talking. Like because he deep down probably knows that,
Oh
right?
yeah, I've
But
been quite polite to E. Michael Jones too, because
yeah,
Elliot, who's now in the chat, saying, tell him he's an idolater and a blasphemer. Go on, why don't you tell E. Michael Jones? It's
and
like,
then we
okay,
would have like 6 months of not talking again. So what will be the benefit? So what I'm doing is let's go where he can go and his followers can go, and like actually take steps forward. Like I'm just talking about usury with him next, and say like most Christians don't even know usury is a bad thing. Like they don't even know it's against their religion. So if they know that's good, that at least they go, oh, that's a bad thing. I didn't realize. I thought that's just normal. Oh, okay, maybe I'll take on less loans and their lives will get better. And at least they'll see how they're being controlled as well. So it'd be like a step forwards rather than just telling them like the Bible has mistakes and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll just give up.
well, okay, there might be an argument, for certain people, we're going to get on their good side, and then eventually we'll,
Yeah,
tell
but my
them
point
in a
was
gentle
actually,
and
sorry.
caring way what their problem is, right? You can
And
do.
my point was with Nathaniel, he's got some interest in Islam, and you messaged me earlier on, oh, you didn't mention Sharia, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll bring it up. And I say, you know what? In Catholicism, are you sure that there's enough unity on this kind of thing, that usury and all this other stuff is bad? Because it seems like most Christians have given up on the law, but Muslims haven't. Maybe you're better off becoming a Muslim. That's a conversation to be had. But that was my first conversation trying to figure him out,
Well, I mean, they're all the same. They sort of know that Islam wins all the arguments, but they can't imagine themselves being happy Muslim. They
But
can
maybe
imagine
Nathaniel
themselves.
can, because Nathaniel has said he's got some interest in it over emails anyway.
Yeah, but it's like there's just something about him. He can't think logically through the next step. I mean, I've asked him quite a few times. It's like, well, how are you going? Tell me about your Catholic ideas to ban usury, and he can't. He just starts talking about Catholic saints or stuff like that. And I'm saying, well, if you really have you considered that if God isn't Jesus, you're going to be in deep trouble? And he converted. Okay, he converted from Protestantism to Catholicism. So if you just converted from one wrong religion to another wrong religion, you're actually going to be harder to persuade that you converted to the wrong religion than somebody
Maybe
who was just Catholic to begin with.
Maybe another way of looking at it is like he's made one incremental improvement, he can make another. He's like, the improvement is that I don't really know, but my understanding is Catholicism has some unity in beliefs and they're more practical. They actually follow the religion, all this kind of stuff in theory, right? So he's going, oh, he's made an improvement. Maybe he will take the next step soon. Like he has already said that. He said something about he made some Shia, he said some Shia kind of thing, Shia Muslim kind of thing. So, oh, you got an interest in Islam? Yeah, I've got some interest in Islam. You said an email. So I'll explore that at some point, step by step, Cool.
Well, I think really you should just understand that a lot of these people, they sort of get it about Islam, but they can't for social reasons, right? Because mum and dad will disinherit them. Nobody will speak to them at work. They'll if you're female, they'll say, why aren't you in a hijab? What do you do? And if you're male, they will be, they don't want to be the butt of the usual Islamophobic jokes, and they don't want to do it. And probably they think Islam may win the arguments, but I don't really believe in the afterlife. Because I think, if you did believe in the afterlife, you would think, well, of course God will reward me for, blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of Muslims and Jews and, they don't really believe. They're more, focused on, what's going to happen to them immediately. If they're going to lose their job, if somebody's going to be mean to them and make jokes about their new religion, they're not going to do it. And we have to understand what moral cowards most people are. And therefore, I've often thought, how are you going to make these cowards? They're looking for permission, right? If you imagine themselves, at a zebra crossing, and they're just waiting for the green light.
Sure.
They can see,
let's go for the outsiders.
no cars, but they're still waiting for the green light. Who is the green light? The media.
So you mentioned like they don't want to be disinherited and all this kind of stuff, right? And interestingly, Nathaniel mentioned like for some reason there's a lot of white people who are not getting the inheritance from their parents. I didn't understand it. Maybe he's one of those people. So maybe he's
Okay,
like
I
the
can tell you, I can explain to you what
go on.
it's like
What is
their
he?
parents are.
Go on.
Well, it's not just him, but it's sort of pretty general. There's always already this presumption that the children are not going to look after their frail elderly parents, and they're going to be shoved into some home. And now,
Okay.
what they're doing is that they've got all these sort of luxury homes that look like stately homes that their boomer parents can go to, but they'll have to sell their house, so their children won't inherit anything, right? So,
Ah,
right? This is how it's going to work.
interesting.
They sort of know that they're not going to inherit anything from their parents, but they still don't want to look after their parents because, I guess, it's pretty horrible if you're, the only son and you have to look after your mum, right?
Wow. So
Because you didn't
basically
marry.
the home elderly home people, they're essentially inheriting or taking all the money. Wow.
Yeah, they're like kind of vultures preying on these, boomers. So they know the children aren't going to get anything. And I've read articles about, how children threaten their parents. It's like, can I have my inheritance now before you blow it on some care home? You know, when you
Wow.
become senile. And if you won't give me my inheritance now, you won't be seeing your grandchildren. Do you understand? Do you
Wow.
understand how it is
Yeah,
between them? They
that's
they
so
actually
amazing.
hate
It's a
each
whole
other.
new thing. Yeah,
Yeah, they
wow. I
hate each
mean,
other. They can't even have a discussion about politics because it's like, oh, my boomer parents, he's a boomer, he won't understand. He doesn't give a shit about any of my concerns about leaving you know society, allowing society to become what it has. He's got a lot of money. He's going to spend it on himself. I'm not going to get anything, particularly if I pick a fight with him. So I'm not going to say anything. So even within these white families, they're divided. They can't discuss politics with each other. And in fact, even if you're on reasonably good terms with your children, your if your children have been to university, they will have all these words that they learn from indoctrination at university. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a misogynist, for saying these things. You're
liberal
backwards.
indoctrination. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and 3 years of that, and they will think, well, the BBC agrees with me, everybody else who's cool and sexy agrees with me, and you're just my own mum and dad. Look at you with your crazy views that I wouldn't let my friends hear in case you disgrace me.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, as Muslims, we're always kind of ashamed, or I don't say looking down, but let's call it that, um, at white people because they don't take care of their kids. And then, like, now it's all backfiring finally. Wow. That's a really important topic. Like, it's backfiring. They're not getting their inheritance now. Wow, they're losing big time.
Yeah, because
That's
they're not
crazy.
looking after their children. I know, in the olden days, the elderly would be looked after by the women of the home who would live in generational homes, and I think men would be frightened. It's like, you're still single? Are you gay or something? If you stay
Yeah,
single, you'll just
we
end up
have that.
looking
Like, if
after
you're a
your
Muslim and
own.
you're not married, yeah, people think
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
gay or
Who's going
something
to
wrong
look
with you.
after your mum? You're going to do it yourself. So, that's how they were frightened into marrying.
And the great thing is, like, there's so many, like, I would call them poor people who are just taxi drivers, and they've got homes just because they live with their parents, and their parents have bought land when it was like a fraction of the price, and it's still quite cheap in Jordan, and they just build another story on top of the house, and like they're
Hmm.
like so much better off, and they're so poor, they're so much better off than most 99% of Londoners. It's
Well, they've got
crazy.
the labor, right? Labor is a resource that these rich people don't have. Actually, rich people, they need poor people. Otherwise, what's the point of, sitting on your gold and your money if you can't get people to do the things that you don't want to do? right?
Mm.
And you have to pay them. And I mean, that's the reason why, family restaurants and family business succeed, because you have the slave labor of your children. It's like, well, if you're going to inherit this business, you're going to be, put through your paces, and you have to mind the shop and, wait at tables or whatever. And that's why these family businesses can be so successful, because of their, profit margins and saving on labor costs because of family slave labor. But if you have to pay everyone, you know, a living wage or whatever it is they call it, your profit margins will be squeezed. So this is what the matriarchy, which is basically the feminist government, is causing. Even to rich people, even rich people are being squeezed. And this is what I keep trying to explain to people. You won't get away with it because you're rich. If you know anything about Roman history, you might just be targeted because you are rich. If you know the story of Cardinal Wolsey,
No,
in
tell me
the
about
end.
it. This is interesting. Go on, go on.
Well, he became very, wealthy and powerful, and he'd advised the king, and he got on the wrong side of the king, and the king, basically summoned him to London, to face the music. He would probably have been, found guilty of something or other and be burnt at the stake, because this was what happened also to powerful people. I've been reading this, history of England
So what's the
storybook.
equivalent of today, though? So you're saying rich people are not getting away with what?
The thing is, they never did. I mean, even if you were baron or something, yeah, you go to war, you were, briefly in the favor of the king or queen, and then they get tired of you and you get executed after being accused of something or other,
Yeah,
So I just don't think, even rich people are safe. And the thing is, Islam also has a message for rich people. It's like inheritance tax. You won't pay any inheritance tax under
that's
Sharia.
true.
if
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
right.
over your heads in debt, well, you can default on your loans, if you pay back the principal under this new system. And we could say that there is an argument, according to this verse in the Quran, for a 20% flat rate income tax. And everything will be, if you keep going on about, God exists and you should convert to Islam, it's not going to work, because they can't imagine themselves being happy as a Muslim, because they can, imagine the things that they would say about Muslims being said about them if they convert to Islam. So, but okay, I'm saying with secular Quranism, there is this sort of in between place when it's not quite Islam, because I'm not Muslim. That's why I keep insisting on my non-Muslim identity. Because I guess if I said I was Muslim, I would be treated like Anjem Chowdhury, who's been sentenced to 28 years in prison just for. Nobody can tell me what he did wrong. All he did was post online. And because he's a trained lawyer, I'm sure he didn't even post anything edgy. He just took what they said to him literally, like, after a certain time you can post online again, and he did. He was on LinkedIn, he was on X. I missed all that though. And then they created some stupid offense about some Canadian supporter of him arriving at Heathrow, and that was deemed. And his touching down at Heathrow meant that some theoretical offence was complete, like he had, directed terrorism, because this stupid boy who's only in his 20s and living with his mum arrived from Canada to London to meet his hero, and that was it. That was directing terrorism. Right, they just make up offences to get him, because
Sure.
basically he was convicted of not changing his mind even after being imprisoned. That was what he was done for. So I get it that Muslims are afraid of talking about Sharia, because I mean he's the most famous Sharia for UK person, right? Actually, before him there was somebody called Siddiqui. He ran. He had a political party. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
I think it was called the Muslim Parliament or something, and then he died. So that was the end of it. But he wanted to have an Islamic party in Britain, and he actually got a lot of publicity. So, but yeah, so really they have been, they sort of know it. They sort of know that Christianity isn't going to work. But what I've noticed in the last few days is I've been arguing with Grok about Sharia and secular Quranism, and Grok is actually stupid. I mean, it does the usual thing of you tell them something and they'll forget about it. So it would say secular Quranism, even though it's secular, demi status and executing apostates. And I say, but I've already told you more than once that secular Quranism will not be executing apostates or stoning adulterers or imposing demi state. It's like. Then it says, yes, I get it. And then later on, it just repeats the same accusation.
Yeah, AI generally doesn't have much memory, because they're not designed for keeping this. I think it's too much work for it or something to have memory.
But yeah, it does contradict itself. So I mean, that was because I was thinking, maybe I should just argue with the AI because Christians won't argue with me, right? Because they know they can't defend the Trinity. But the way it defends the Trinity is quite interesting too. It's got a form of words that will say, it's more compassionate, and it's caused wonderful Western science and technology. It's compassionate, and people just willingly obey the law without being forced by the law to obey it, and then it's got this idea of voluntarism. We have to voluntarily obey the law. It's like, no, we don't voluntarily obey the law, because if we break it, we'll be treated as criminals. So why don't you just say you must not break the law and obviously forbid the things that needs to be forbidden, but obviously it's going to keep supporting feminism.
AI is programmed according to its overlords. So Elon Musk is not exactly impartial. He doesn't really care about the truth either. He's got certain ideas and whatever.
He doesn't like Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. So Grok will do what he wants, and he sort of, like, a lot of these are kind of Zionists, because he's gone down that angle, right? They support Christianity because that's the best alternative, or the alternative way to combat Islam, I guess, their last hope maybe. So he goes to these Christian channels and goes, oh yeah, I could believe in Jesus, I could believe in whatever rubbish, even though he doesn't. My point is that these AIs, they're all controlled by their overlords, and they won't tell you the truth, and they can say some intelligent things, but I think they've got their limits, let's just say. So yeah, it's not surprising that they won't say Islam's the best religion. I doubt that they're going to ever say that.
Before I forget, the AI art image generator thing. I was asking it to do. I can't remember exactly what I was asking it to do, but it was to do with the Star of Israel, the Star of David, and the crescent and star thing. And I was trying to get it to do something with these symbols, and it always made the Star of David dominate, and the crescent and star just small and pathetic. So even if you said can you make it the same size or the same prominence, it will always make the crescent and star just pathetic and small. So this is something that I've noticed. But the thing is, you see, I mean, you probably won't have time to look at what the AI was saying to me. It's all very dense, in the responses. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I've got to deal with it. I'll, spend my whole life, addressing all these very tightly packed arguments in a few. And then I thought, actually, I think I've won simply because nobody will bother reading Grok's, complex ideas squished into a few, paragraphs. They will only remember what I have said. People reading the exchange will just remember what I say, which I think is sort of fairly clear and easy to remember. So I think, in any argument, you may think, oh, I've got, I spoke over this other person, and this other person hardly spoke at all, and I've won. It's like, no, because if people don't even understand what you said, or even if they understood, don't agree with it, you haven't won at all. And maybe, if you ask a question, which is always a sentence, right? A sentence cannot be a very long speech because it's only a sentence technically, and people, even if they don't agree, they will remember what your question was because it was only a sentence, right? Like, is Christianity idolatry? Or how is Christianity not idolatry? And then when they say it's not idolatry if Jesus is God, how is Jesus God? And then Grog has a few, long-winded explanations, but people won't remember or understand those words.
Yeah, maybe that's why YouTube Shorts are very popular. Hey, they short attention span nowadays.
Yeah, but the thing is, even these shorts have to have a point, and quite a lot of them don't see, they're just clips of conversation that, maybe don't lead anywhere. And maybe you don't even need a YouTube short. You just need a sentence, a question that people can remember, and remember to ask each other when they meet other people at the pub, at the community centre, at their family reunion, or on their date, or whatever. So I don't think all this lost because, okay, about the Jews, it's sort of like, all you have to say to the Jews is you can live as a Muslim. It's like, well, it does appear that Allah is Zionist. You can live in Israel, but you have to live under Sharia. That is,
So
it's like that.
I should say this to any Jew I know, for example.
Well, yes, because actually, it was already in the Hamas charter, because the Article 31 of the charter was saying, we don't want any more of this nonsense about, non-Muslims not being able to live in Israel. I think the idea was that they're going to even change the name of Israel. I mean, that's what I think they meant by destroying the entity of Israel. They're going to call it something else, the way, the Romans called it Palestine, right? So they're going to call it something else, but obviously, the people and the land will still be there. And they're saying, yeah, you can live there, but you just have to live under Sharia. And of course, it's going, they don't want to do that, obviously. And of course, America will not allow them to do it because, I'm just saying, Israel is a proxy of America. So if you understand that, it's Punch and Judy, controlled by, the same puppeteer, then the reason why America doesn't want peace in the Middle East is because actually, the military-industrial complex makes a lot of money out of, the Iron Dome and all kinds of weaponry that they're going to be using or getting, the IDF to use. That's kind of, we're going to test everything, but, using Jewish lives in Israel, seeing, how our weaponry works, clearing out Gaza, for Trump Tower or whatever. If you think of the Jews as but just being sent to people, that colony of Israel, and always be fighting the Arabs, because a lot of the Jews are like, we had the chance to completely, exterminate them. Why didn't we? Oh, because the Americans said no. Because they want there to be a fight. They wanted there to be, drama and fighting and, the pretend wringing of hands. Oh dear, what shall we do? Let's try and keep the peace and, send food and,
I'm kind of losing track where we are. My attention span.
I'm trying to say
you have to break it down. Ask me a question, I'll respond, and then I kind of lost track where we are.
Okay, I am saying it's a show for the rest of the world to look on. In the meantime, the military-industrial complex, the arms manufacturers are making a mint out of all the weaponry that is being sold to the Israelis that they use at the behest of the Americans. Of course, the Americans are not going to say, we actually approve of Netanyahu doing all he's doing to Gaza, right? Because a lot of the Jews think, why was there no?
Ask me a question, because you kind of
okay. You're bored. Let's or you can ask me a question.
I have to participate more or something. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to explain to you
Yeah.
why chapter 17, verse 104 says Allah is Zionist. Right, I know you don't want to hear it.
No, but we can also. I feel sorry for Elliot because he's our one viewer, and
It doesn't
he's.
matter. It doesn't matter. I
It
think
doesn't
it's
matter.
important that you
Oh,
understand, and
okay.
I don't think you
Okay, fine,
understand.
fine.
You don't understand, and you're not interested, right? So what is your answer? Does it mean Allah is Zionist, or doesn't it? We've done two. We've done quite a
No,
few
he's
videos
not a
about it.
Zionist. That's my
He's not.
answer.
Why
We've done
not?
that already. Ask me a
Yeah.
new question.
No. Why not? But you can't just say no and then you have no evidence, no arguments. You're just going to say, I don't like it. The verse exists. It
But
does seem to say what.
you have to approach a person according to what they're interested in. Like we've talked about it so many times, so it's kind of boring.
Okay, you're not interested because you don't like it. You don't like the
No,
idea that
because
Allah is
I've
a
done it so
Zionist.
many times. But I'll give you a short
Yeah,
answer.
but no,
Maybe
but you haven't won the
I
argument.
said I'll give
You
you a short
haven't won
answer.
the argument.
That's your
You
opinion.
haven't
Like
won the
everybody has
argument,
to.
right? You haven't won
That's
the
not how.
argument. You haven't said, no, Claire, you're wrong. Chapter 17, verse 104 doesn't say what it means because
We did
A,
like a
B, C.
whole. I don't know how many live streams on it. So
Yeah, but you haven't won the argument, right?
that's what
You
you
want to
say.
win
But
the
you.
argument without
No,
making the
I think
argument.
you haven't won the argument. Do you know what I mean? It's like then it's
No,
just
no, I've won the
claims.
argument. I'm saying Allah
Oh,
is Zionist, and then you're saying, no, it doesn't, because what? Because what?
anyway, because you, well, let's just say, how do we summarize? Uh, just because you say you have to start off with the common understanding of what a Zionist is. A
Yeah, it
Zionist
means the right
is
of Jews to live
you have your own specific. No, it doesn't. That's not what it means. You see, you've got your own very niche understanding of
the
Zionism
right
that
to a Jewish
mo-
homeland.
next to nobody else agrees with. You see, so and yeah,
Okay, so
so
what is my understanding of Zionism? I'm saying it means
a
Jews
right. You're
have a
saying a
right to a
right to a
homeland.
Jewish. No, no, because most Zionists want to exclude everybody else. So that's not the Islamic
But the Jews will
understanding.
say, oh, look, the 20% of Israeli citizens are not even Jewish; they're Arab and Christian and Muslim.
Yeah,
So
but
what are you
they're
on
not
about?
happy
It's not
about them.
a state.
They want to get rid of them.
Yeah, but the thing
They're
is,
exterminating them right now.
according, yeah. So, but according, to the law, I mean, if you look it up, it still says 20% of Israeli citizens are not Jews.
With less rights, with less rights. So that's not the Islamic teaching. Do you think the Islamic teaching is a state where you've got a so-called superior race called the Jews? Do you think Islam supports that?
No, that
And
is the
that's
point.
most people. So therefore, Islam doesn't support Zionism because you have to go
No,
by most people's understanding of it, not your specific understanding of it.
the issue is the one state, two state solution, right? So with the Gazans, that they're actually in their own territory with their own elections and everything, right? Because the Jews know that if you're just going to give equal votes to non-Jews in Israel, the demographics are against them. So that's why they have to have this one state, two state solution thing, right? So the Gazans have their own elections and the Jews have their own elections, right? So this is how they break things up. So
Yeah, but
obviously,
then that's not really what's happening, is it? Because the Gazans are under siege. They're not like, oh, you can. They're not even allowed to even have their elections. When did they last have an election? The Gazans.
yeah, and they voted Hamas.
When did they have a last election? It's not.
I don't know, but they
There's
have
not like
separate
there's not
elections to the
there's no
Israelis.
two state. There are no two states at the moment, so that doesn't even make sense.
Okay,
Like
let's ask AI,
so what? Jewish controlled AI. Let's go and let's ask Jewish controlled AI. Go on.
did gods that have separate elections to
Elliot keeps these
Israelis?
streams interesting. Thank you, Elliot. Appreciate it. Will you girls stop bickering? I'll try. Zionism is Jewish nationalism. I don't think so. Zionism is nationalism in somebody else's country. I think that's really hilarious. Like that's like me, like Jordanians going to England. It's like we're being nationalistic. Everybody listen to us. You should support Jordan in England. That's what Zionism is. Nationalism in somebody else's country. It's hilarious. Does Bitcoin solve anything? I think it's nobody trusts Bitcoin. Sorry. Go on. Claire.
Gaza
What
do
did
not
AI
have
say?
okay elections in Palestine, so they have separate.
Does it tell you when they lost?
Elections
Just a
in
number,
Palestinian.
a date.
Okay, I maybe it's too complicated for you to understand, and you keep interrupting. But it needs a subject, a stream separate to itself. I know you're not an expert on these things, and But the point is, the Jewish homeland, Zionism is just the idea that Jews deserve a homeland, right? Or you're going to say it means something else?
It means something else. Nobody believes that.
What are you saying? You expect Jews to say? We
Zionism
of all people don't deserve a homeland.
No, Zionism is a ethno-state, Jewish supremacist state ideology. That's what it is.
Right, but originally it was the idea of Theodore Herzl saying, we keep being persecuted, we should have a homeland, and at the time, the British the Europeans were happy to support it or platform the idea because the British had their eye on Israel because they wanted it as a colony when they were imperialists, right?
Elliot says Claire.
Okay, you don't quite accept that.
Okay, sorry. Say that again. One more time. Go on. What was it?
I am saying. Okay, I think it's just too complicated for you.
Yeah.
It's just too complicated for you. You're bored. But the point is,
pick another.
Zionism is just the idea that Jews deserve a homeland, and you are expecting Jews of all people to say, no, we don't deserve a homeland. We of all people whom everybody hates, we don't deserve a homeland. Perish the thought. So okay, so you have not given a coherent definition of you just made a list. Oh, it means Jewish supremacy and racism.
What about
but no, you haven't given it a full sentence.
Homeland?
What?
Where's a Muslim homeland? Just because
you've got your Muslim countries, right? You've got your Muslim countries in Jordan.
No, just because people just chose that religion. It's not like a Muslim homeland. It's not like I'm a Muslim, I can just turn up to Jordan without a visa.
Okay. So
there are no religious homelands. The Jews
but Jews.
And they're not being persecuted unless they do like genocide. So the Jews are not, Norman.
Oh, they were committing genocide when the Nazis were, or maybe you deny the Holocaust too.
They pissed off everybody in Europe, and then I'm not saying they deserved it, but like they wound up with enough people, and then they got.
Okay. So for whatever reason, historically,
Just
they didn't have a homeland, right? They didn't have a homeland, and now they do. And the only way you can win the argument is to say, yes, you can live in Israel, but you have to live under Sharia. You don't understand what I'm saying. You don't.
No, I just don't. I don't say.
You don't want to be seen to be promoting Sharia, right? Is that it?
No, I just I asked you I don't know, half an hour ago. So are you claiming that you just go to Jews, you should live under Sharia, it'll be better for you, and then there's somebody somehow agree? I think we need to.
Well, it doesn't matter if they don't agree.
Oh, you should just say it then. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, you just say it. You just say it. A lot of things you won't say because you think, they're not going to agree with me, so I won't say it.
There's no point saying stuff.
Right?
You
Yeah,
say
there's a
things
whole
like
point in saying
actually,
stuff because if you don't
skillfully.
say it and you just talk crap, nobody will listen to you because it's just boring and it's like, oh, it's just saying, oh, agreeing with this Catholic, we should ban usury, oh, but not talk about how it's going to be done. So it's just a bunch of hot air and gas bags, right? You're just producing content for you, which nobody's going to watch anyway because it doesn't lead anywhere. So on the question of Zionism, do you really expect Jews of all people to say, no, we don't deserve a homeland?
Yeah.
Really?
What? Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, they're already
you
going to
expect all
Greece.
these
They're
Jews
already,
to
they're going
say
to
they
Cyprus.
don't have,
They're already
they don't
moving to
deserve a
Cyprus.
homeland?
They're already moving to Cyprus.
No, only the wealthy ones can go to Cyprus,
Yeah, loads
right?
of people are running away. They don't. They don't even
Okay,
like.
so
Like
you want to give Cyprus to the Jews. What about the Cypriots? You don't give
I'm
a
not
shit about the
giving,
Cypriots.
and they don't care. Jews don't care about a homeland. They're running away really fast from there. The only people who are staying are the native Arabs. Do you
Yeah,
know like
yeah.
all these statistics?
But the principle is that Zionism is the idea that Jews deserve a homeland.
Yeah, but that's a weird idea. Like, who deserves a
What's
random
so
land?
weird? Are you
It's,
going to dispute it?
if it was true that they really deserve a homeland and the Americans really believed it, they would have given the Jews a state in their own country. But they didn't, because you already know, as you said 100 times, that Israel is just a colonial project, an outpost of America, whatever you want to call it, uh, just to carry on the colonial project. That's all it is. There's nothing to do with the homeland. That's just an excuse to take the land. Just like, I don't know, probably Americans, when they first turned up to America, they thought they deserved a homeland, probably, you know.
Yeah, Mike is right. It's like, well, the
There
Native
we go. That's
Americans.
all we're really talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're in occupation and they're supported by the most powerful country in the world, the world's number one superpower. So why would you expect a Jew to say we don't deserve a homeland when it's mentioned in the Koran, it's mentioned in the Torah, it's supported by the most powerful nuclear superpower in the world, and you're expecting the Jews to say, oh, we don't deserve a homeland? No thanks.
What
Really?
does colon of the West mean? Israel has only been called Israel colon. Colon's like where you digest stuff. Why would you be calling it colon of the West? Is that a thing?
Oh,
And
I think
Islam.
he's probably saying, Israel is full of shit or something.
Oh yeah, I was thinking. Okay, so where poo gets processed as in. Okay, interesting. And is La Raza is that place in Cyprus or something? Is better than Gaza or something? I wonder what that means.
I don't know what it means. So
Yep, go on.
so Muslims can only win the argument by saying Jews are welcome to live in Israel as long as they live under Sharia. And they won't agree. I know they won't agree, but it's food for thought. They can remember that, right? With their big brains and super cunning. They can remember that Muslims have said to them, yeah, you're welcome to live in Israel, but you have to
Yeah,
live under Sharia.
they
And
were
what's going to
always.
happen?
They lived in Israel before they came from Europe. There were Jews there for ages. In fact, you probably know the history that the second caliph, when he found there were no, was that Damascus? No, was it Jerusalem? I get mixed up sometimes. It's Jerusalem when there were no Jews there, and the second caliph. Yeah, it was Jerusalem. Yes, of course. So there was no Jews in Jerusalem, and he said, "Why are there no Jews? Because I think the Christians exterminated them." And he said, "Oh well, go quickly and find 80 Jewish families to bring back the Jews." So yeah, they're welcome. They're just not supposed to genocide the population. Just live side by side. That's all. That's what Islam teaches.
Yes, so so I'm saying even if miracle of miracles, the Israelis said, yeah, we'll live under Sharia. Do you think America would let them? He would kill their leader who says they want to live under Sharia would be gone because Israel is controlled by the US
I'm
State
missing
Department.
something. Like, okay, what's your question?
I said, even if miracle of miracles, the
Yeah,
Israelis agreed to live under Sharia,
sure.
it wouldn't be allowed by Uncle Sam. It would not be allowed by Uncle Sam.
Okay, until America becomes Muslim. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it will mean that if Israel lives under Sharia, America will follow suit because they're really one and the same.
Good plan. I agree with it. That's in line with the sayings of Prophet Muhammad that the sun will rise from the west, which is a metaphor for. No, sorry. Yes, it's a metaphor. Basically, in the latter days which we're in, Islam will rise from the west, and westmost country, I guess, is America. So I totally agree with that thought
Oh,
process. But yeah,
so we finally understand each other.
there we go. There we go.
We
Great.
finally
You
understand. So
said to
it's
get
worth
to my
pursuing.
level.
It's worth pursuing, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
You
sometimes
had to approach it slightly differently.
yeah, and
But don't be so angry. It doesn't
I think
work. You kind of
very.
like Islamic principle is just say it calmly and softly, and then you know.
No,
My
but
wife
if
told
I
me,
said,
don't say that.
I'm going to be, Sabar, then I'll just change the subject and we'll be talking about something else. But I think, sometimes we may use the same words and still not understand each other. Sort of like idolatry. It's like,
Mm,
Jews, Christians, and Muslims might agree with each other that idolatry is a bad thing. But if Jews and Muslims won't tell Christians that Christianity is idolatry, Christians are missing, important information. And I know the historical reasons of, why Jews and Muslims might be afraid of their Christian overlords who would, go on crusades and slay them in the Levant, and but I think that would advance a narrative, wouldn't it? It's like, well, have you considered the idea that God might exist and might not be Jesus? And if you, die and, meet God and discover he's not Jesus, what do you think is going to happen to you?
So yeah, I should go to Christians and say, have you considered that Jesus is not God?
Yeah. I mean, that's easy enough, right? Because if you say Trinity, they won't get it, because a lot of them don't even know they're supposed to believe in this nonsense because they've
And
actually
then,
tried to hide it from them.
yeah. I mean, you could do that, but the obvious response would be, "Have you considered Allah is not God?" And then, like, I think we
No,
have
no,
to
no,
give it.
no, no. It's like no, no. Then you have to say, well, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are called the Abrahamic religions, right?
Mhm.
Because they all refer to Abraham. They're supposed to believe in the Abraham and Isaac or Ishmael story, whatever. So,
Mhm.
and of course the Quran repeats a lot of the stories in the Old Testament, in the
Yeah.
Tanakh.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, if the Quran actually mentioned a different bunch of stories and a different bunch of prophets, then it wouldn't be an Abrahamic religion. Do
No,
you
it does.
understand?
It mentions prophets that are not in the Bible as well, but not, and it tells the story slightly differently. For example, Joseph called the person in charge of Egypt the king, because not a pharaoh, because historically the pharaoh didn't exist at that time, and stuff like that. But yeah, and there's prophethood, which is not mentioned in the Bible. Different things, but there are differences. But yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the most important one is, for Christians would be the story of Jesus, right? And that he did not die on the cross and it was lifted directly to heaven by God,
I
you
mean,
know.
You
So,
know, Ahmadi Muslims don't believe he floated off to heaven, but that's another. But he didn't die on the cross. That's true. I just want to thank Bird Nest Ratfest. First of all, really weird name, but thanks for responding to correctly all Elliot's claims. I think you're getting great answers from what I can see. Thank you, Bird Nest Ratfest. Thank you. Yep, go on.
so I've forgotten what I was going to say now. What were we talking
Oh my
about?
God.
You've forgotten too.
Yeah, we could talk about something new if you like, or we could just—we've got 5 minutes. We could just like respond to different things that Elliot
They're
is
pretty
saying.
dull, the comments today.
They're pretty dull. Yeah, maybe he's repeating the same kind of stuff, I guess.
Well,
But
everybody's got
yeah,
ADHD,
everybody's got ADHD. Oh,
including you.
maybe. Yeah. To what extent is behavior of Israel's? I think this is a good one. Maybe. To what extent is the behavior? Are you going on the thing? The thing just moved. That's why I thought something changed. To what extent is the behavior of Israel's behavior a reaction to kinetic behavior of peace living? I thought he was going to say something slightly different. What does that mean? Kinetic behavior. I'm not even sure what that means. Kinetic means like energy,
I don't.
like movement energy. I thought he was going to say like something like, to what extent is Israel's behavior a reaction to, I don't know, Muslim behavior or something? But I don't know. But he must be being
But most of these
sarcastic.
people can't even.
Yeah, and he might be sarcastic, saying
I
peace
don't know.
loving.
They're just posting nonsense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the violent behavior of peace-loving Muslims. So he's being sarcastic. So, okay, that's an interesting comment, I would say. He's saying like, oh, if Muslims were peace-loving, then why would Israel have to fight them back? And I think I've said this, that he's got some point. Like, Ahmadi Muslims, we don't have that issue with Israel. We've got a long-term view, which is just be independent. It's Islamic. It's based on the Quranic solution to taking over Israel, which is be a good human being, which includes following Islamic rules about not attacking innocent civilians, which they did in October 7th. So if they were basically just righteous people, they would become indispensable, which they already are. Palestinians are already indispensable. Okay, they would just take over Israel calmly without fighting. And yeah, so I kind of agree with you, Elliot. See, surprising, eh? I do think Palestinians need to be less aggressive. They have even been told by the Quran that there's benefit in leaving the country if you're being persecuted. So, but that's religious persecution, but it's kind of religious persecution to be a Muslim in Gaza or anywhere in Israel. So yeah, they should leave, and then they'll be invited back. They'll be begged to come back because the Palestinians are the only people who can run Palestine or Israel. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think Israelis can run Israel, or do they need Palestinians like the artisan? They're the people who make the houses and everything. You know what I mean? They know how to run the olive farms. They don't run themselves. It's just been like generational practice, generational training that the Israelis, who are just Europeans, can't. They can't even handle the weather. A lot of them, I think. So, what do you think?
Any society needs a labour force. That's why, you always have a labouring class, a middle class, etc. It's universal, right?
Yeah,
we
but
can't all be
very
university
specific.
graduates.
Okay, let me ask you a specific question. Yeah, sure, you need a labor class, but do you think Indians can come over and take care of the olive farms like Palestinians
It won't
can?
be done as well. because they're not used to, the local conditions, and they don't have the, knowledge, the local knowledge
Yeah,
to,
Indians can do coconut trees and mango trees, but they can't do olive trees, for example. But anyway, yeah, they need Palestinians badly. Palestinians need a long-term game. They need to stop throwing rocks and then mini missiles and stop getting obliterated. Follow Islamic rules, they will win. So I agree with you. They need to be more peace-loving. They are too aggressive. They should say what Ahmadi Muslims say: love for all, hatred for none, and they will win. Cool. Thank
or
you
just
very much.
use my argument, which
I like my arguments. My arguments are better. All right. Cool. Thank you very much, Claire. As a pretty good, and we got lots of, we got Elliot and you, some other intelligent people listening. Hopefully somebody's benefited. Thanks for your time.
yes, I think an important issue was discussed.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Claire. Thanks. And Claire, by the way, I know you're aggressive and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff, but I just want to, it's easy to forget all of the things you've been helping me out with. Thank you for sharing contact with Nathaniel, EMJ, all that time in the past, and so many other contacts.
My pleasure.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they call kayfabe or something, the Americans. This is performative. I'll send you an expression.
Thanks. Yeah, explain it through Wikipedia or something. Yeah.
No, it's basically performative aggression.
Okay.
When two boxers before their match come up, or wrestlers or whatever, they I'm gonna really stamp on your head. Oh no, I'm gonna knock your head. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
for the fans, right?
But it's only one way. You're the one who's like, I'm like, okay, and you're like, all right. I'm just joking.
No, because otherwise you'll just talk over me and witter on, and then nothing will. You'll just repeat yourself and ask me why I'm not Muslim, and I know, you're. I guess a lot of people are not interested in these particular, meanings of words. But I think, as a lawyer, these words mean things, and if you define them properly, the solution will come. And we kind of agreed on it in that, if Israel were to adopt Sharia, so will America. And that's why the Americans will not agree to it, even if all the Israelis said, please, Uncle Sam, we'd like to adopt Sharia. And Uncle Sam will say, no, because if we allow you to come adopt Sharia, we will follow. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Birdnest Redfest. Bye. Okay. All right, bye.
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 Right, I remembered what I was going to say now before Khaled started reading the boring chat. And it is that the Quran talks about, repeats certain biblical stories and talks about the life of Jesus and the virgin birth, etc. And I'm saying it's necessary because if the Quran talked about a whole bunch of people that are nothing to do with Abraham and Noah and all the rest of them, then it would be promoting a different religion, and it wouldn't be an Abrahamic religion, and therefore it wouldn't have the benefit of worshipping the most powerful God conceivable. Right? This is what you have to understand. The Abrahamic God is the most powerful God conceivable. Nobody can think of a God more powerful than the Abrahamic God. And that is why anyone after Abraham will have to say, oh, but the way you worship the Abrahamic is wrong. Our way is more correct, and this this is what is called supersessionism. So you have the Jews, and then the Christians came along and said, look, Jews, you've done it wrong. We are God's people. And then they carried on for a bit, and then the Muslims came along and said to the Christians, look, Christians, you've got it wrong. We've got the book. We've got the final revelation from the final prophet of God. So nobody can better us. And this is the situation now. So understand this historical process of progressive revelation. First revelation in writing, it has to be in writing, was the Torah, and then the Christians added their Christian twist to the Old Testament with their New Testament, saying that the Jews, yeah, they were helpful and useful, but we're the boss now, right? And then the Muslims came along and said, no, you haven't got the final revelation. We have the final revelation because, all the stories are repeated in the Koran, but in a slightly different way. And we know what happened to Jesus. He didn't suffer a terrible death, and therefore we're the religion to follow. And actually, Christians, we already accept the virgin birth. You know how rude the Jews are about Mary, and we're in a way letting the Jews off the hook too by saying he didn't die on the cross, so Jews don't really need to accept the terrible guilt of having killed him because Jesus didn't, he was lifted up to heaven directly, and he didn't die after suffering horribly. And it's a good test for Christians, because when you tell Christians, good news, Christians, Jesus didn't die horribly on the cross, he was lifted directly up to heaven, you will find that Christians are not happy. They are not happy because they want Jesus to die on the cross for their sins. So it means that they are a bunch of hypocrites who don't love Jesus, who want him to be their sacrificial lamb. And this attests to their hypocrisy and their fake love for Jesus. Because you would have thought, Christians would be thinking, great, we don't have to hate Jews, we don't have to worship an executed blasphemer, we can still get to heaven and still have the benefit of believing in God and following his laws, which are not as bad as the one in the Torah, which has 36 capital offenses, and we don't have to burn heretics at the stake, which Christians did, and we can use a Koran, which doesn't even mention blasphemy, and has a verse that supports chapter 2, verse 256 of the Koran. So there you go. If you still want to go to heaven and still believe in God, Islam is the way. If you believe in that sort of thing, and even if you don't, it would be better to hold your ruling classes accountable for the laws they make and break. So the only way to hold your ruling classes accountable is to have a book of rules, so you can know when your ruling classes are breaking the rules. So it's basically, a mechanical issue. If you want to hold your ruling classes accountable, they must agree with you to a set of rules that they will also follow, as well as yourselves. Or they will keep making up the rules and saying marriage is gay and all kinds of things without consulting you, or only pretending to consult you, while making up the rules as they go along and, taxing you more for their stupid wars. So Elliot asks, how many gods are there? The answer is, there is only one Abrahamic God. And the Abrahamic God is the most powerful being conceivable. So why would you trouble yourself to worship an inferior God, unless, of course, you are an Islamophobe, which of course most Westerners, the overwhelming majority of Westerners, are. I've dropped the link, but oh yes, I wanted to talk about elections in Palestine. I'll admit I don't completely understand all the intricacies of the government of Israel. Palestine, officially the state of Palestine, is a country in West Asia. It encompasses the Israeli-occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, collectively known as the Palestinian territories. The territories share the vast majority of their borders with Israel, with the West Bank bordering Jordan to the east and the Gaza Strip bordering Egypt, blah, blah, blah. Its proclaimed capital is Jerusalem, while Ramallah serves as its de facto administrative center. So it's basically one country broken up into two because, as I was trying to explain to Khalid, because of the demographics, the Jews will, under representative democracy, not be able to win elections. So that's why they have to have their own separate elections. So that's why it's called an apartheid state. They don't. Let me just check if it's completely correct what I'm saying. Elections in Palestine are held sporadically. Elections for the Palestinian National Authority were held in Palestinian autonomous areas from 1994 until their transition into the state of Palestine in 2013. So what was the purpose of this? Okay, I'll just carry on reading the Wikipedia entry, which I've not read before. I'm sorry it's boring for you, but it might assist your understanding too. Situated at a continental crossroad, the Palestine region was ruled by various empires and experienced various demographic changes from antiquity to the modern era. It was treading ground for the Nile and Mesopotamian armies and merchants from North Africa, China, and India. The region has religious significance. The ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict dates back to the rise of the Zionist movement supported by the United Kingdom during World War I. The war saw Britain occupying Palestine from the Ottoman Empire, where it set up mandatory Palestine under the auspices of the League of Nations. Increased Jewish immigration led to intercommunal conflict between Jews and Palestinian Arabs, which escalated into a civil war in 1947 after a proposed partitioning by the United States was rejected by the Palestinians and other Arab nations. The 1948 Palestinian War saw the forcible displacement of a majority of the Arab population and consequently the establishment of Israel. These events are referred to by Palestinians as the Nakba, which means catastrophe. In the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, which had been held by Jordan and Egypt, respectively. The Palestinian Liberation Organization declared independence in 1988. In 1993, the PLO signed the Oslo Accords with Israel, creating limited PLO governance in the West Bank and Gaza Strip through the Palestinian Authority. Israel withdrew from Gaza in its unilateral disengagement in 2005. But the territory is still considered to be under military occupation and has been blockaded by Israel. In 2007, internal divisions between political factions led to a takeover of Gaza by Hamas. Since then, the West Bank has been governed in part by the Fatah-led PA, while the Gaza Strip has remained under the control of Hamas. Okay. Israel has constructed large settlements in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem since 1967, which is currently housing more than 670,000 Israeli settlers, which are illegal under international law. Hamas launched October 7 attacks against Israel, citing Israel's blockade of Gaza, Israeli occupation, and violence against Palestinians. In response, Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza, which has caused large-scale loss of life, mass population displacement, a humanitarian crisis, and an ongoing famine in the Gaza Strip. Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people during its ongoing invasion and bombing of the Gaza Strip. Palestine is a permanent non-member observer state at the UN. What does that mean, non-member observer state? Unable to participate in the work of the United Nations General Assembly through, it's not a proper country. And is recognized as a sovereign state by 157 of the UN's 193 member states. The questions of Palestine's borders, legal and diplomatic status of Jerusalem, and the right of return of Palestinian refugees remain unsolved. Some of the other challenges to Palestine include restrictions on movement, ineffective government aid, and Israeli settlements and settler violence, as well as an overall poor security situation. Despite these challenges, the country maintains an emerging economy and sees frequent tourism. Arabic is the official language of the country, while the majority of Palestinians practice Islam. Christianity also has a presence. Palestine also has a member of several international organizations, including the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, back to elections in Palestine. The Palestinian National Authority has held several elections in the Palestinian territories, including elections for president, the legislature, and local councils. The PNA has a multi-party system with numerous parties. In this system, Fatah is the dominant party. The solution for the Palestinians is obviously to have a one-party state. But of course, the Americans will object. You see, all they have to do is say that, and then maybe the Israelis will think, perhaps we'll have a one-party state too. And then the Americans will have a one-party state, which is actually what I want for them. Why do I want America to be a one-party state? Because it will help them solve their problems sooner rather than later. Look at how many parties they have in Palestine. There's Fatah, and then the Palestinian People's Party, National Democratic Coalition, Palestinian Democratic Union, Liberty and Independence Bloc, Palestinian Popular Struggle Front, Arab Liberation Front, Islamic Struggle Movement, Islamic Jihad Movement, National Democratic Movement, Future Bloc, Palestinian Liberation Front, National Movement for Change, Palestinian National Coalition, Ba'ath Party, Progressive National Bloc, Independent. You see, it's just dumb. But we can see that representative democracy is extremely divisive, and most people don't get it. Even the Muslims, they don't get it. I wonder what would happen if the Palestinian National Authority, if I got the name right, just says, we're going to be a one-party state now. Will they be allowed to do that? Will the idea catch on, and will the Israelis I should ask, what kind of a passport? What passport does a Gazan have? Will they have an Israeli passport? You see, I'm not even sure it's so. Right, you have a Palestinian Authority passport. You see, and the thing is, the Israelis need the labour of the Palestinians. You know, imagine if you had to do that to all your workers. Like, you shove them in, outside where you live. You make them go through all kinds of security checks just to come into work. It's unsustainable. Let me tell you this. Of course, it's unsustainable, and that's why you need a one-state solution, if only to say that, we are one group, and in order to be a sustainable society, you would have to have, it can't be, all men or all women, because then, everybody would know that, in a few decades, you'll all be extinct if, there was just an island of men and an island of women. So you make the men and women live together, breed with each other, produce children to replace themselves as they die, and then they would need a working class, right? They would need a working class because all kinds of things need to be done. Crops harvested, taxis driven, buildings built, etc. So Israel is a country that doesn't have a working class. In fact, it is unsustainable to just have the, they just wouldn't be able to get anything done. But then they've killed so many of the Gazans, so they basically destroyed their own labour force. So, but to have a sustainable society in any country, not just Israel, you need your cleaning lady, your nanny, your plumber, to be living in the same neighbourhood. Preferably, right? That is the ideal for anyone, regardless of race or religion. You want in your neighborhood to, obviously they have to have shops so we can buy stuff, and restaurants, pubs, and a community center, be it a mosque or a synagogue or a church, post office. Just think of all the things that you would want in your neighborhood. But the Israelis live separately from their workers. and are in some way surprised that, every now and then there's going to be rebellion and violence. But the point to remember is that the Americans want this conflict between Arab and Israeli to continue, so it can use Arab and Israeli lives as um, guinea pigs for their latest, social and military experiment. And this is what I think is happening. And they should, well, try at least to cease to be guinea pigs for Uncle Sam, if they are wise. And with regard to Khaled, he's finally got the point. He's finally got the point that by Muslims conceding that Allah is Zionist and letting the Jews think they won the argument, they can say, well, of course, Allah will expect you to live under his laws. And that would be Sharia, wouldn't it? And then as you watch the faces of these Israeli Jews fall, you can say, you can interpret it yourself. We're not going to come in and, impose Sharia on you. You can adopt secular Quranism with Israeli characteristics, which would be quite an interesting thought experiment and a social and political experiment. And since the Americans are so into their military, scientific, and social experiments, which they are carrying out on Israel, on the Jews too, the result of that is, we'll let the Israelis try out their secular Quranism with Israeli characteristics, and if it's all right for these Israelis, who could be Jews and Gentiles, then America can adopt it. And that is why Jews are so important. I hope I've made some sense. I don't expect the penny to drop immediately, but I hope in time my simple words of advice will be understood by Jews, Arabs, and Americans. Thank you for your attention.